When I left Christianity, I found that there were a few things that religion taught that still ring true, or the exact opposite rings true. Their religion doesn't always believe in 100% toxic ideals. Sometimes there is a little bit of truth in everything. And for me, number 32, I embrace open communication regarding sex and consent. Now, I was never taught consent as a child. I was never taught any healthy role models, any healthy tips, or anything about sex or sexuality. Any sex that wasn't heterosexual, vanilla, boring, was never discussed and was never shown as a positive thing. Any form of sex was never discussed. Anyone who wasn't straight or cis never existed. My family, religion, and environment erased everything of the LGBTQIA community. Women that didn't have children and became a subservient wife were considered unnatural, in rebellion, and horrible, morally corrupt individuals, which is the opposite of what I believe now. A woman's role is not to serve, not to be a mother, and not to be anything unless it's her passion and she loves doing it. But if you're going to be a stereotype, don't be a boring stereotype. I mean, you can be heterosexual. Not that it's a choice or anything. But if you're going to be a heterosexual stereotype, make sure you have friends, interests, and things outside of your role of being a mother, a father, or a stereotype. Be unique, be interesting, be dynamic. Don't be a boring stereotype. Don't make being a heterosexual mom your entire identity, because it's just one part of who you are. And I've been shamed my whole life for trying to understand my body. I was never told masturbation was something that helps people grow from being a child to being a teenager. I was taught that my body was supposed to be covered up and hidden. And even today, if I wear sleeveless shirts, my fundamentalist Christian roommate makes me feel, well, she thinks she's making me feel guilty for wearing it. I just don't care. That doesn't mean it doesn't annoy me, but I just don't care. I will not be silent about healthy sexuality. I will never be silent teaching people about consent. Because yes doesn't always mean yes. And if you were born and grow up in an institution where women can never say no without being called a horrible wife, a terrible woman, consent cannot exist when you think you don't have a right to say no. When you believe your body is not your own, which is a Christian it's a Christian cornerstone. If you believe your body is not your own, I don't believe these people understand what consent is. If you don't believe that someone 100% owns their body and has control over it, I don't think consent can exist in that environment. If you tell women they cannot say no unless the man agrees, consent cannot exist. If the woman doesn't 100% know that at any time she can say no, she can stop, she can leave without any moral, emotional, or spiritual repercussions, then consent cannot happen. And when women are taught to always put themselves last, that abstinence-only education basically teaches women that their needs either don't exist, don't matter, or are irrelevant to men. Teaching women that the wedding is for the woman and the wedding night is for the man strips women of their dignity and their agency. And when the religion denies that women have sex drives and that sometimes their sex drives will be higher than men, Or even more taboo, that there are people like asexual and aromantics that may not even want a relationship, a marriage, or kids. You have one of the most toxic erasure cultures in existence on this planet. And imagine growing up never learning about people who may not have a sex drive, their sex drive may be entirely backwards to how gender libido is even mainstream understood. The idea that a woman has a higher sex drive from a man is never anything I've read in hundreds of Christian marriage books. It just did not exist. The idea of a sexless marriage is sinful was so prevalent, it erased asexual people as human beings. I never had an effective communication or even a healthy argument with anyone in my family for over 30 years. Because anytime I talked to my parents, they didn't listen to me. They tried to fix me, correct me, told me how I was wrong. They told me what I was thinking, feeling, why I did something. I mean, one of the first things I learned in sex therapy is never speak for your partner. Never tell your partner, this is why you did this. This is why they're feeling this way. You never tell your partner or anyone you care about what they're thinking, how they're feeling, and why they did something. You can't read minds. And when you talk for someone else, you close down the effective communication. There is no open door to communication anymore. You're basically judging them and telling them everything about themselves. There was no positive arguments in my family. They would be screaming at each other for hours and then 2 weeks later start screaming for hours about the same thing. Nothing was ever resolved, fixed, changed. Nobody ever said or even hinted at the idea of we'll agree to disagree. There was no disagreement. You had to believe and think the same way as my parents, or they made your life a living hell. That's not effective communication. That's narcissism. When you make people so uncomfortable not to voice their different opinions because of a meltdown you've had in the past every time, that's toxic. I never expect people to agree with me. I can still recognize when people believe harmful or just downright hateful things. But I never expect people to agree with me unless they say so. And I'm tired living in environments or near people who get angry when you say that women make good leaders, that gay and trans people are awesome people to meet and spend time with. My own sister loses her mind and screams at me when I say that it's sexist to not vote for the most qualified political candidate because she's a woman. If you can't have a political, religious, or private conversation with somebody without someone losing their mind and screaming at you, you can't have a relationship with these people. And if you want one, you need to be in therapy, because these people are not healthy people to be around. And if you allow hateful, unhealthy, toxic people into your life, they will steal your peace, your joy, everything good about yourself. So, yeah, I grew up in a place where the only opinion that existed or was discussed was what my parents thought, believed, and put into practice. And this is why, when I came out 2 weeks ago, why my family treat my coming out like an event that never happened. And I didn't come out for them to accept me and support me. I was tired wondering if they were the kind of people I thought they were. Spoiler alert, they were. And if you don't care enough about someone to make sure they're okay, to offer a hug, or to care about them, you don't love them, and you don't care about them. You just don't. And getting older, you realize that sometimes your worst nightmares come true, where you believe your parents will disown you for having premarital sex, even though I don't believe in any such thing. Where your parents will disown you for being married to someone of the same gender, or even coming out as an atheist or someone who's bisexual. Sometimes being an adult is realizing that what you thought would happen is happening, but it's not the end of the world. And family has nothing to do with what blood you have. It's about who is consistently a positive part of your life. And if an institution prohibits and shames people for having open communication, or it can't even exist, and they never tell you about consent, positive sex, even if it goes against their beliefs, I'm not sure I want anything to do with that religion or that patriarchal environment. It's just openly toxic. And luckily, sex therapy helps me work out my problems. And just because I'm cis and straight doesn't mean I'm any less traumatized than someone who's bisexual or transsexual in a religious environment. It's just a different type of trauma. So every day is an adventure, and I look on the bright side. I don't have to live with these people. I don't have to breed with these people, and I just don't care about these people because they've never shown consistent care toward me in their life. And when people show you who they really are by ghosting you after coming out, believe it. And do not give people a second chance without consistent, drastic behavioral changes. And sometimes when people choose to be shitty, sometimes you get one chance to get it right. Sometimes you can't get those moments back. And blood doesn't mean family. And when you're an adult, sometimes you have to create your own family, go find your own family, or set boundaries.